In this video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making this knife. Part of the reason this has taken so long is I've been really chasing perfection getting into the folder world. This is a design I've completely designed, and I completely make all of these parts except for like the hardware and stuff like that. So I've been really chasing perfection because when I get into the folder world, it's a different world than the balisong world, so I'm not like super used to it. And so I really want these to be absolutely perfect going in. That's just never going to happen. There's going to be some small issues. There's going to be some things that I can improve, and I'm never going to get to perfection. So I finally got a model that's basically there. There's some small changes that can be made for the actual production of this. I've been carrying this in my pocket for a couple months. I want it to be a little smoother. I want to fix up the lockup, and that's all like the functional issues I want to change. And then there's some cosmetic things that are also getting modified. So let's go ahead and get started into what we're going to be doing and some of the machining. Okay, here's the palette we're going to be using to machine this. Made this in the previous video. You can check out how I made this. So what we're going to be doing is the knife is made out of titanium, which this is the stock for the scales. This is the stock for the pocket clip and spacer. So it's grade 5 titanium. It's a really nice, really light material, but when you buy stock like this, it tends to come in oversized, so it doesn't fit in the palette. So the first thing we're going to have to do is dress the stock, which means basically just cut it down to size so it'll fit in here. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna take out the pallet system for dressing the stock. Okay, so now that the vise is loosely in here, it has not been indicated in or anything, what we're gonna do is we have to indicate it in to make sure that it's parallel with the x-axis. The x-axis is the axis that moves like this, and so we wanna make sure the vise is parallel with that movement. Hopefully that makes sense. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this indicator, and we're gonna put it right here, and we're gonna take it to 0, and we're gonna sweep it across this face, and we're gonna want it to stay 0. Now, it's not going to do that initially, but what we're gonna do is only this one back here has been tightened, and so there's a single pivot point right here, and so we can very quickly bring this into tram, or into alignment. Step this into 0, okay, you can see that's close enough to 0, and then we're gonna sweep it. Now, because it's going this way, it means that this point is lower and this point is higher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab dead blow mallet, and I'm just going to tap this dial indicator back to 0. So when you're tramming in or parallel or aligning a vise, always leave one tight, and then after you get everything into 0, you can see that that very quickly took this to 0. And then to show that this has load on it, we're going to go to that first 0, just like that. You can see how dead center that is. So when I tighten this, that dial indicator is going to move. Watch. See, it's moving that way. So what we have to do is we have to tighten this in a pattern. And we can walk it back and forth. Because this one is reasonably tight already. So we'll just make sure that this is all the way tight. Tight, and then what they're going to do is this is going to pull it back out a little bit, and then this will push it back into 0, and we're going to take this to a tightness that we like. It's 0 now, and then we're going to check tram one more time, and we're going to see that needle's moved a little bit. The edges of this vise are slightly off, so I'm not concerned about that. And you can see it's not quite on 0 anymore, it's slightly off, but the important thing is that it stays exactly where it's supposed to be the entire time. I don't care if it's on the 0, that's not an important dimension. I set that in the machine, not on the dial indicator. So this vise is trimmed in. I did it better than I actually even need to. I'm trimming stock, it doesn't matter. But it's good to do it. If you're gonna do it, you may as well do it right? That is probably gonna get cut, because that is probably really boring. It's up to you, Gabe, whether or not that stays in. I like it, I think it's important. I'm a mega nerd, and most people aren't going to care about that. So I have 20 pieces of the initial stock that I need to dress. With 3 inches open, 7 will fit in the vise, so it's going to be 3 operations, 3 7s, 1 6, and then I have to address the other small stock. I'm going to go do that programming and stuff. It's super boring. I'm not going to show you guys, and then we'll get back to the facing. Okay, so I just got my program posted, and now we have to put these in the vise. As you can see, the vise is higher than these, so I have to put a shim in here to get these up high enough to actually cut the stock. So I'm going to be just doing just 1 right now, and then I'm going to put 7 in. So get 1, get my z-axis set properly so it's the right height, and then run the rest of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean these doors and then run this. the stock has now been brought to size. It took a while, but I got all 20 odd pieces done. So these are going to go in the pallet just like this. They go in there, they get lined up with the bottom of this here. And then this goes to setting 7. And then those are in there, so they're ready to run these. So I'm going to show you all the tools I'm going to be using to machine this, and then what I'm going to start running it. So yeah. Okay, so these are all the tools I'm going to be using for Op 1. I have more tools for Op 2. It's most of these same tools, and then a couple more. So I have the one that does most of the work. This is a 6 flute 1/4 inch end mill. This does most of the roughing for the titanium. I could probably use a 3/8 end mill, but it doesn't really matter. After that, some of the more important ones, this is a 1/8 inch 4 flute end mill, and this does all the cleanup from the roughing. And then I have a 1/8 inch chamfer mill. This does a pre-drill hole for the 16th inch drill, as well as a bunch of small little chamfers. This drills a couple holes for some threading, as well as some just pre-drill holes for plunging and slotting operations. I have my 3/16ths, not 3/16ths, 3/8 chamfer mill. This does heavy chamfers. I then have, is this a flat or round? I have a 1/32 inch flat end mill. This does the top slot, so this doesn't actually get used in this operation. This gets used in the next one. I have a 1/32 ball end mill, which does some engraving. I am missing, because I forgot to prep it, a 1/16 inch flat end mill, which does the slot roughing for the, it does this slot roughing. There's a change, so this is going to be half the thickness. So what this is going to do is in Op 2, it's going to come through and cut through the top of this, so it's a 1/32 inch slot instead of a 16th inch slot. And then I have my 2 thread milling end mills, one that does an 8x32 hole and a 2x56 hole. So this does threads for the lock bar insert, and this does threads for the pallet and fixturing. Yeah, that's about it. I'm missing a 16th inch end mill just because I forgot to prep it. That looks just like this. And so what I'm actually just gonna do right now is swap these and then remeasure it, because I don't need that one until the next operation. And I don't have another one of these 2 quarters, so I don't really feel like swapping that out. Okay, all the tools are in the ATC, automatic tool changer. You saw how that works in the time lapse, hopefully. So basically what's left is to put the pallet in the mill, measure some things, and then everything's ready to run. Make sure this pallet is nice and clean on the bottom, or at least on the contact surfaces. Now the pallet is in the mill. I've already located the pallet in, I just need to locate off the top of this pallet. Okay, so this is the control panel, and you can see on the control panel, this is touchscreen sort of, it doesn't really work very well. You can see the preview of what we're going to be running. You can see all the different tools, and then the actual code the mill runs on is called G code, and you can see it's just X, Y, and Z moves with some like radiuses, which is like a J. So G1 is just general machining and stuff like that, and then you have I and J moves, which means like radiuses and stuff like that. And you can see this whole program is 64,500 lines of code. So it's a lot of lines of code, and thankfully with modern tech, this runs pretty easily, and I don't have to worry about writing this all by hand. Writing this all by hand would be basically impossible. So, yep, it's time to run. Let's go ahead and get this going. first operation. So the first operation in the first operation just ran, and you can see it roughed out the general profile of them. And so now we're gonna get in, clean some of that up, drill some holes and stuff like that. And so yeah, that's the 1/4 inch tool done. This program is 35 minutes in, so it's another 20 odd minutes of cleanup and stuff like that. And then they'll be ready for the next operation. Everything except the thread milling is done. So I'm going to go ahead and put the thread mill in here, and I figured I'd show you how this works. So you just take your thread mill and put it in the mill. It's just going to do that. And you probably can't tell if there's movement, but it's moving up in like a helical movement. That one is done. Selected two 2x56 threads right there. This next one goes in, and then we repeat the process. Go ahead and let this go. And you're probably going to be able to discern, more of the helical movement. Okay, so I just pulled them off the mill, and these are looking really good. I'm going to pull them off the pallet so you get a better angle of them. But before I take these off the pallet, I'm going to test the thread mill sizes to make sure I don't have to modify that. Because once these come off, I can't modify anything. I could put these back on the mill right now and have a very tight precision of repeatability because this pallet is designed to do that. But the second these come out of here, they're done. Or at least the effort it would take to put them back in and align that is really not worth it. And good luck hand tapping titanium. It's not necessarily impossible. I've never succeeded. So we're going to start with my 2x56 screw, which is this. So I don't have go-no-go gauges for these screws. What I do is I use the screws that I'm going to be using on this. Go-no-goes are great, but the screws aren't always in tolerance. And so that threads in perfectly, and then that is just really tight. And I'll leave that in there so I can get a closer up. And then my 8x32 for the fixturing, which goes in this hole here, this hole here, this hole here, and then the same for this one. And then that threads right in, nice and tight. They're not super deep holes, so we're gonna go ahead and pull this out, and here it is. It's looking great. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pull this one off so we can look at this engraving. So this is just basically a mirrored version of this without the frame lock bar. So this is this scale, and so you see it has to cut out for that, like the pocket clip and stuff like that. So this is just the dress scale side, so there's less things going on here. And you can see in here, there's some little engraving. And like that's how big my fingertip is, so that engraving is really small. But yeah, this is looking good. And all the tolerances are gonna be the same, right? They're machined right after each other. So I don't know if I made it to the final cut of the previous part, but I did mention I'm making 2 of these knives. So I'm gonna go ahead and run that second one off camera. Okay, so it's next morning. These are now done. I got them done last night. I just haven't had a chance to film. I did fix that there is now a hole in there. You probably can't see it. So let's go ahead and take these out. Okay, so now the next step is to pull these out of here, and then we got to finish this dimension and this dimension here. Gonna ream those in a drill press. Okay, so this is my slightly over 1/8 of an inch reamer. So I'm gonna grab an 1/8 inch reamer. These are carbide reamers. These are really nice reamers because I have to get really nice tolerances. See, I'm just taking tiny bit out. The holes are just made slightly undersized, and then I just ream them just the tiniest bit. And yes, I know my reaming etiquette is not perfect. It's supposed to go straight in the hole, straight out of the hole, at the same speed, at a low RPM. I'm doing this by hand. It's not perfect. These holes are still going to be within tens of thousands of an inch of accurate, which is perfect for me because I don't want to have to press fit the pins, but I also don't want them to be loose. Okay, so I have a set of pins. I actually have 2 sets of pins. And basically what these do is these allow me to check the exact dimension of these holes. So I'm going to grab my 1/8 inch gauge pin, and that fits with a little bit of wiggle. And then my .126 gauge pin should not fit, and it does not. And these holes are pretty shallow, so they're not going to be absolutely perfect. Okay, let's go. Good. That last one felt a little loose, so I'm going to grab the 0.126, and it does not fit. Now, these aren't go-to-go pins, so they shouldn't fit on the other side. Now we're going to grab our 3/16 pin, which 3/16 is 0.1875. This is 0.187. This is 0.188. So it's between these two pins that these holes have been taken to this dimension. So if we actually check this, it should be 0.187. Okay, it's just under, it's about a 10,000th of an inch under. And this should be slightly loose in these holes because it's 0.1875 is 3/16. Okay, slightly loose. And then the 0.188 might be able to fit. And if it can fit, it should be very tight. Okay, it just barely fits, in which case it's very tight. Okay, that one doesn't fit. That one doesn't fit. That one I can kind of push in a little bit. So, and then we're going to check the actual dimension of this pin. Okay, it's about a 10,000th of an inch under, which is telling me that these holes are within roughly 4 to 5 10,000ths of an inch within accurate, because it's that 0.1875, just a 10,000th of an inch is essentially nothing. So yeah, these holes are good. They could be better if I remake them in the mill, as that's a more rigid and better solution. Doesn't matter. So yeah. Okay, so the next step is to go ahead and get these on this pallet. See those locating holes here. There's supposed to be a pin in the back, and once I get the final design done, I'm going to remake this top fixture for better locating features and to make it cleaner. You can see there's a bunch of like gubbins and it's not super clean. So this will get me remade eventually. I just don't need to remake it yet. And so it fits right on those pins. Then we go ahead and we put these screws in like this on a number 7 setting on the drill. Like that. And I want to make sure that this is nice and tight. So I'll put a screw in, I'll loosen the other one, make sure it's tight. Right. And the reason I do this is to make sure all the screws are pulling down and not just one of the screws. Because sometimes I have an issue where it's just one screw and then that gets loose and then I have issues with it. Very good. Now we're going to take this to a higher setting and then tighten everything real. I'm going to take this piece of aluminum, run this over the bottom here, just to make sure I'm not catching any screws, so make sure none of those are sticking up. And then what I'll do is off camera, what I'll do is I'll just take a stone this down, and then this looks like it got a little bit of gubbins on there, and then I'll stone this flat. And basically what stoning is, you take a whetstone. I don't have a specific aluminum stone, so it's not perfect. You have specific stones for specific things, and so I'm kind of just doing a janky job right now because I don't have a specific aluminum stone. And you just rub it down, and you see it's like scratch marks. What it does is it takes these any burrs or stuff and it lays them flat. And then when you put these two surfaces together, you know no burrs are messing up your stuff. And even just putting this on there, I can feel this is pretty flat. You can feel that there's holes in here, so it's not gonna like suction onto there, but I can just feel on the surface that it is pretty flat. And that's the table that's not flat on this pallet. Okay, so they're on here. It's kind of close with the camera, sorry. You can see they're nice and on here, and you can see they're being held. And so these screws are holding it down to this pallet, and then this pallet is being held on with screws, and that is how I flip these over, because it's a super weird size. In theory, what I could do is I could machine out pockets and have clamps that hold it. I don't really like that, because then you don't have any ability to change geometry. Basically, I can machine anything I want here as long as this hole, and this hole are in the same spot. If those are in the same spot, I can machine any geometry I want on this. I have some locating pins on here as well, because I knew this pin and this pin are going to stay in the same place, and I'll add this pin to this eventually when I remake this pallet, because this pallet, at least this sub pallet, needs to be remade. And so when I actually get this design finalized, I will do that. So I'm going to start this. Basically, what we're going to start by doing is we're going to start by removing this top hat material, and then we're going to be left with basically just, if we just basically just delete this top hat, we're left with this material, and then we're going to do all the surfacing and finishing and stuff like that. And so you'll get to see that it's a lot of the same tools with a couple ball end mills just to do the surface finishes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, so I've got everything in the mill and it's ready to go. So the first operation is just gonna take this top hat off. I'm gonna skip that. You guys don't need to watch that because it's super boring. It just basically removes this top hat. So after that's done, I'll come back and show you guys the adaptive finishing and stuff like that. That's the cool part. Taking off the top hat isn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started, and then you guys will be back when I have that ready. Okay, so the decking operation just got removed, and I know you're looking at this and you're like, those look horrible, what went wrong? Nothing went wrong. So you can see the actual profile of the handles, and this is very smooth and has a very nice surface finish. That doesn't matter, that's going to get removed. And then on the edges of it, there's like this titanium foil, which, you know, if you remove, is your clean handle. So I'm not going to sit here and remove this. This is going to be coming off in one of the next operations, basically. And so none of these edges are going to stay here, so that's going to get removed. I told it to leave a couple extra thou because there's an important thickness here, and I want to make sure that I have extra there, not too little. So let's go ahead and get the next operation going. Okay, so what you just saw was the roughing pass for these, and what that does is it essentially takes the square and rounds it. You can see that these are round. You can see the surface finish isn't great. And what that does for the finishing pass is what it's going to do is it's going to change end mills to a fresh end mill, and then it's going to come through and do the finishing pass. And the reason I don't go straight to the finishing pass is because what this does is it leaves a consistent stock, meaning I forget exactly how much it is, but about 10 thou stock on here. And that leaves a consistent 10 thou. There's 10 thou here, there's 10 thou here. And so when I do the finishing pass, it's consistently removing the exact same amount of material throughout the entire handle, which allows me to have a more consistent surface finish, as well as a better surface finish because there's less things going on. So yeah, it's gonna run that now, and then you're gonna see the really nice surface finish as soon as the fresh end mill gets swapped out, and then we do the more consistent finishing pass where I remove less material, and so that the finishing mill lasts longer, cuts better, and I get a better surface finish out of what it's doing. This is how fast it actually is. I know you've been watching the time lapse, but I figured I'd pop in and okay, here you can see the actual surface finish. That's quite nice. I get the chamfers, which it's not supposed to do, so gotta fix that. And then you can see I'll follow this line because it thinks there's a slot in here, so that's going to cause an issue with the surface finish on this one, so I'm going to have to fix this before I do the next one because I'm not slotting out that line. So if that line was gone, wouldn't matter. You can actually trace where that's supposed to be missing from, and it isn't, so I need to get that fixed as well. So it's going to run the rest of the scale. I'm not going to update until it's done. Well, actually I probably will because I'm going to have that little 1/32 inch end mill come in here and finish cutting that slot. You can see where the slot is right there, and then it's going to finish cutting that in a second. And so you'll see a bunch of passes following that, so yeah. Okay, just got these off the mill so we can go and get a look at them. So let's start by pulling off this pallet. Look at those look great. Set that aside. This looks really good, so I'm going to measure this dimension. That should be 0.045 roughly. In theory it should be slightly oversized because I gave it a couple extra thou. Alright, just measured that off camera. It is 0.0445, so that's about perfect. And then you can see this here. You can see that that is a thinner slot than I have on this one. And so this is what the 1/32 inch end mill does, is we come through with the 16th inch and start off the groove, and because the 1/32 inch end mill isn't long enough to get all the way through the handle, I then come through this face. You can see the adaptive. I thought it was the scale. You can see there's a little bit here, so there's modifications. And so the next program I'm going to run, I've already fixed this because I still have to run these. And so I fixed the program. And so some of the artifacting from just it thinking there's a slot here and it not being there, you can see some stuff here and you can see some stuff up here. So as that's fixed, that shouldn't be an issue anymore. which you can see this just turned out really well, all really nice chamfers. So yeah, I'm very happy with how these turned out. The next one should be even better because I fixed the weird issue with like stuff like that. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and run that, and then I'll be back when they're done. Okay, so I got these off, and these are looking quite good. You can see like the little weird things that were on the other one are gone. I'll grab the other ones for comparison. The second scale is identical, so we don't really need to look at that. But you can see this one has like that little curve there, and that's not here on this one. And then this one has a bit up here as well, and this one doesn't have it. So the finish on this one's altogether better. Made a couple small tweaks. Actually drilled a hole in that I forgot to do in the op one for the other one. So yeah, these are looking really good. And so the next part is going to be to make the spacer as well as the pocket clip, and these are both titanium as well, and that's what this little slot is on for the pallet. So we're gonna make that. So we finished the handles, and now we're gonna make the pocket clip and spacer, which should be pretty quick. We use the same fixture and the same pellets to make that, and then in the next video we're gonna go over making the blade and the lock bar insert, which are the last parts that I make. And then I might do a video on assembly and finishing and anodizing and stuff like that. So maybe 3 videos, maybe 2. That's that for the stock. That's it. I'm gonna go put this in the mill, post the program for this. I'm using the same program I've been using. So this is machined in a very similar way. I cut it out, I thread some holes, I flip it over, I deck the top head off, and then I have my finished stuff. So let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, so my program had the boring. Basically what this smaller end mill does is it walks down in a helical. The program had that helical starting just under where it should have been starting, so it just plunged the end mill down into solid material, which broke it. That's fine, it doesn't damage anything except break the end mill. So I just replaced that, fixed the program. So now we're gonna run it, and then the rest of it should run. So I'm gonna resume the time lapse. Okay, got the pocket clip and spacer done. I already checked the threads, so we're not gonna check those right now. Here's how that looks. That's threaded, that's threaded, that's threaded, and that's threaded. These 2 are for fixturing. These 2 are for fixturing. This one and this one are for assembly. So I'm probably gonna change that from a 2x56 to like a 4x40 screw, because 2x56 is just really small. Besides that, this looks really good. It's got a nice finish on here. I use a ball end mill, and I adaptively radius this, so I have all these slight curves for the pocket clip, as well as a nice little catch there. These are just drilled holes for locating, and so is this one. These are just 16th inch pins, will fit right in there, and then that locates everything off of the scale. Okay, hopefully you can hear me well over both the surface grinder and the mill. So this, you might have seen these pockets. These pockets have been redone as I've changed my pocket clip design a couple times. This is the old clip design. It looked like more of a bent clip. This is machined like this, whereas this one looks like this, and you can see some of the difference here. This is a far superior clip. It's also a lot easier to make. This is gonna go in here like this, and then I can put screws in here, here, and here. So first I'm gonna grab some 16th inch pins, put them in the fixture so everything locates off those pins so nothing can move, and then I'm gonna run that. So let me grab my pins. Okay, I've grabbed my folder hardware, which is that tub there. Yep, it's a lot of hardware, I know. And this is just for my folders. This isn't even everything. So then this will fit in there nicely. This will fit right here. So then they should go right in. Yeah, okay. Push that down. See the pin there and the pin there. Make sure that's all the way in. Alright, very good. Okay, that's in there. Honestly, just like one more of those screws would probably be enough for this. And you may have noticed the 3D printed insert, that holds the bridge, because when this gets cut, that becomes quite thin and prone to like vibration. So I 3D printed a part to hold this up in the fixture. What I might do in the future is print that out of a flexible material. What was I saying? Oh yeah, print these in flexible, so when I push down on it, it's more vibration dampening. I'll play around with that idea. Maybe I'll do that, maybe I won't. Okay, I got the screws in here. I forgot to film it, but basically I just grabbed some screws. I lost my normal fixture screws, so I just grabbed a couple of these ones I normally use and just shortened them a little bit so that they would fit. And then I loosened everything and wiggled it around and then tightened each screw separately. Kind of like what I did with the handles, just to make sure all screws are pulling down with force. Okay, so just pulled this pallet off the mill as the other one just ran. Finished its off one, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw this on. All right, this is now ready to start running. So let's go ahead and start that. Okay, so here they are after the op. If I had a fresher end mill, this would be a nicer surface finish. I don't though. And the surface finish is just fine, especially considering you still need to go through finishing. So let's pull this out. And then I'm gonna measure this really quick. This should be 3/16 of an inch. I need to measure this and see what it actually is. So there's gonna be like some burrs and stuff, so it's not gonna be absolutely perfect. Yeah, it's really good. So if you don't know, 3/16 is 0.1875. This is 0.188, so this is 5/10,000ths of an inch over. There's some burrs and stuff, so let's try it right here. I got this side's a little bit bigger, so 4/10,000ths. And so with the burr removal, I think this will be essentially perfect. So that's very good. So that side's 1 thou over, the other side is 5/10,000ths. Which out of the Tormach is actually really good. I was expecting that. You know, within a couple thou is where I want that, but that was about right. And then the pocket clip doesn't have any like super important dimensions. I'll explain why that dimension is important in a minute, or well, maybe not even in this video. I'll explain it probably in the blade video. So it's really thin here, and so that's why I need the extra support here so this doesn't vibrate. You can see over the surface finish area where it holds it stronger. It's a slightly better surface finish. It's probably not coming over in camera. And then these edges are a little thinner than I'd like, so I'm gonna just bring those down a little bit. So yeah, this thing goes in the handle. Okay, this thing goes in the handle just like, all right, it doesn't want to fit, but we'll get that fixed. Apparently, is this more oversized? I've had a slight fitment issue with these in the past. Okay, I don't know why I'm measuring this. I don't actually know what size this is supposed to be just off the top of my head, because there's a bunch of dimensions here in the width of this. Not one I've been thinking about. So I've had issues with this in the past. I think I have a program to open this up that I just forgot to do that. I'm gonna grab the other one and see if it's the same real quick. Okay. Well, considering all my everything else has come out the correct size and thickness, you can see even that was within a 10,000th of an inch. I'm going to assume that this as modeled is correct, or as machined is as modeled. Now, I might have modeled it incorrectly, in which case it's still wrong, but I machined it as it was modeled. So I think these holes just came out slightly undersized, so what I'll do is I'll just put these back in here and then take that and then open those up with a program. Which is nice because with fixed string, I can just put the screws back in and these are good to go. So I'm gonna run the other one of these real quick and then I'll mess around with that. I'll do that off camera, as you know, we've already gone over the machining of these. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. We did the spacer, the pocket clip, and the 2 scales. Hopefully this isn't a super long video. I was hoping to keep it 15-20 minutes, but I covered a lot, and so maybe there will be. So next what I'm gonna be doing is making the blades and the lock bar inserts. I already have some lock bar inserts, so we'll see if I need to make some. But yeah, the blade shouldn't take super long to do, and we can go over heat treat and testing, and then actual finished assembly, and then maybe in another video we'll go over finishing and anodizing and stuff like that, because this is all stuff I'm doing anyways. So anyways, I'm gonna start filming that tomorrow. That being said, the videos will probably be some time apart. Hopefully not the 6 months that the 2 videos were apart last time, but no promises there. So yeah, this is what we got. We're moving to this, so this will be what we're working on next time, the blade. A couple of small changes to the blade as well, and then we're going to be assembling all these. Okay, so I just wanted to append the video really quick. Ignore this stuff. This is from the blade part of the video. That's an old blade, not a new blade. So I wanted to give a quick little shout out to the people who have helped me a lot with this design. I did not figure out how to do all of this myself. I talked to a lot of other makers, and I talked to a lot of people at Blade Show. So some of the people I talked to that really helped me with stuff like this. So like specifically with like pocket clip fixturing, I talked to Fellowship Blades. I knew I was going to be changing my clip. I had the previous bent clip style. I talked to Machine Wise about some stuff. I talked to the guys over at Grimsmo Knives. I didn't talk to either of the actual Grimsmos. I spoke mostly to, I believe it was Skylar over there. And so a lot of the distance this knife is made have been from those people, as well as beta testers. The beta testers are people who actually received units. They were free units, and they helped me a lot with some of the designs. One of the people there was Transparent Edge Knives, or Transparent Edge Cutlery. I'll put whatever his actual name is up. He does a lot of stuff. He did some hardness testing for me and some edge testing. He was very helpful. And then somebody who really helped me with the lock bar insert and stuff like that, and some of the issues I had with there, he was, his name was New York Knives or something like that. I'm going to put his name up on screen. Sorry, I can't remember your name off the top of my head. But he really helped me figure out why I was having a lot of issues with the lock bar inserts, being that thickness and some other things. Yeah, I just wanted to append this in there. I felt like not mentioning any of this was kind of, I don't know what the right word for it. I felt not mentioning this was kind of in poor taste, considering I got so much help with this design. So yeah.